Welcome to Hard Talk on the BBC World Service with me, Sam. My guest today revels in his reputation as one of South Africa's most controversial politicians. Julius Malema is self-styled President and Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters, an organisation that is part political party, part populist street movement with paramilitary overtones. Malema's activism began early. He was a child member of the ANC in the last days of the struggle against apartheid. In 2012, he was expelled from the ANC for labelling then-President Zuma a dictator. Right now, it is the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, who is in Malema's crosshairs. The EFF leader wants Ramaphosa toppled and impeached following allegations of dodgy cash stashed on the president's farm. With the economy in a mess, power cuts and mass unemployment stoking discontent, is Malema pushing his country towards chaos? Well, he joins me now on the line from Bloemfontein, South Africa. Welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Malema, South Africans are facing a very grave economic crisis. There's deep uncertainty in the country. Why are you adding to that uncertainty by calling for the removal of President Ramaphosa?
It's the most logical thing that when a leader of a government doesn't perform well or the country is in a crisis, that leader should leave office and give others an opportunity who can come and do a much better work. Because I don't think that Mr. Ramaphosa has got a coherent plan as to how he's going to save South Africa.
But that's not the way democracy works, Mr. Malema. Mr. Ramaphosa has a mandate given to him by the South African people. And indeed, if you look at the business community, if we're talking about the economy, it seems business leaders think that removing Ramaphosa would actually make South Africa's situation worse.
No, democracy works like that. That's why our constitution provides for the resignation of the president or impeachment or motion of no confidence. So the democracy we are trying to define now, you can't find it in any of the definitions of democracy.
You say he should be impeached. You seem to believe he's committed crimes, but there is absolutely no evidence so far.
There was money which was stored at his house, not declared to Reserve Bank, to financial intelligence, to the banks, to SARS, South African Revenue Services. Nothing has happened. Ramaphosa went to look for people who stole from him from another country without having opened a case with the police and used the police facility to pursue those who stole from him. Managed to get some of them, went to torture them at his house. Well, said there is no evidence. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
because
you've just cast there a host of different accusations and allegations. Mr. Ramaphosa is quite clear that the cash that was apparently found in his Pala Pala farm was cash that he got from selling livestock, and he's absolutely denied all of the allegations that you've just aired. And the public protector, the ethics guardian in South Africa, is now investigating the case. So why don't you just back off a little bit and let due process happen?
Politics don't work like that, where someone from London tells you to back off. There's no one from London who can tell us to back off. We do what we do, and we do it for the best of our people. Ramaphosa has brought the office of the president into disrepute. And we must be worried, we who love South Africa, that our office cannot be occupied by a person with so much accusations against him, including torturing of women. We shouldn't be only obsessed with money. There was a female there who was tortured. And the chief bodyguard of Ramaphosa has now come clean, confirming the allegations that were made against Ramaphosa as a person who was leading that investigation.
All I can do is remind our audience that Mr. Ramaphosa denies all of these accusations. How credible are you? You've been running a vendetta against Ramaphosa for years. It's 6 or 7 years since you labelled him a murderer. But the truth is, Ramaphosa has won elections, he's the leader of the ANC, and you simply refuse to accept his authority.
No, but you are also peddling a lie, because Ramaphosa never denied the allegations. He said he will answer at an appropriate forum. So you can't, to your audience, speak with authority that Ramaphosa denied any wrongdoing. The reason why he has been struggling to answer questions to the public protector is because he's got no answers to give. You can't quote Ramaphosa here on Hard Talk where he says, I vehemently deny the allegations. He says, I will cooperate with the investigation authorities. He has never denied that there was something that went wrong. We still want answers from what happened in Marikana, because he called for
let's not
in Marikana.
Let's not go back to the Marikana mines incident, because you had your say on that many times over many years. Let us focus on what is happening to the people of South Africa today. You've got an unemployment rate at a record, well over 30%. You've got hunger across the nation. There are people in your nation who are facing starvation. And you, because of your politicking right now, are calling for, quote, a national shutdown. You want to bring the country to a halt. How is that?
If you have not been part of picket lines, you will never know how important picket lines are. In South Africa, we are where we are today because we've always opted for picket lines. And now we have a crisis with a government that is not held accountable, with a president that thinks he's above the law because he enjoys the protection of the capitalist white media. So the only thing we have is ourselves. We are going to bring our bodies to the streets and demand that Ramaphosa must resign, and that the new president must look into the cost of living, including working on finding us a possible reasonable oil, which will ease our pain, because our problem starts with the price of oil in South Africa.
What's going on here? Is it you trying to stir trouble in this country to a point where Ramaphosa can no longer govern, and perhaps Jacob Zuma can somehow be brought back into power? I remember last year you tweeted saying, Mr. Zuma, I really need to meet you. Can I meet you for tea? You went to his farmstead to meet him. Nobody knows what you talked about, but there are rumors in South Africa that Zuma is still plotting some sort of move against the current government. Are you involved in that?
Zuma will never be president of South Africa again. He must enjoy his pension, and people must stop troubling him there in the villages. He's looking after cattle. There's going to be the EFF that is going to take over South Africa and run it for the better. So do not confuse us with internal factional battles of the ANC.
What did you say to Zuma when you met him?
No, I met President Zuma to persuade him to go to Zondo Commission, because I had an appreciation that if he doesn't go and ultimately he gets arrested, there's going to be a problem in South Africa. And I was reminding him that we grew up under you. You guys used to teach us that we ought to respect the Constitutional Court as a final arbiter. So today, you guys want to create an impression that if the Constitutional Court has spoken, there can still be others who speak above the Constitutional Court, which is wrong. So the Constitutional Court said you must go to the Zondo Commission. That's what
right. Well, what we know is that next month Zuma's corruption trial, is due to resume, and there is an awful lot of tension across South Africa right now, because there is speculation that there are forces loyal to Mr. Zuma in some elements of South Africa's security forces who may be planning, how can one put it, actions against the government. A year ago, we saw violence across parts of your country where guns were looted and stolen. Do you fear that insurrection is a possibility in the coming months as tension rises around the Zuma trial?
Firstly, there were no guns which were looted ever in South Africa during the July unrest. So it's incorrect to say there were guns looted. People looted the most basic things because of the levels of poverty in South Africa. So the peddling of guns being looted is an imagination
that's not true. Containers of weapons disappeared in Durban. You know it as well as I do. It was widely reported.
No. But there was no looting of guns. If container is missing, something else. Because looting will mean that there was different areas that it was happening in July where people were looting guns. There was no such a thing. It's an isolated incident of a container, and therefore it must not be conclusively that there was a looting of guns in South Africa. There was a problem with one container. I'm here. There were no guns that were looted except that container that we are speaking
about.
Right,
but you haven't actually answered my question. Do you think violent insurrection is a possibility? You, for years, have called yourself a revolutionary. You've quoted revolutionary leaders who ultimately say violence has to be the solution if politicians will not listen. So I'm just wondering right now whether you think South Africa faces serious political violence.
Not for Zuma. There can't be any violence because Zuma is going on trial. That is not going to happen. The violence that is going to happen in South Africa is because the elite is disappearing, and that the poor are becoming more poorer. And therefore, there's going to be something like that looks like an Arab Spring. One day we're going to wake up with very angry people who are not going to be reasonable if there is no immediate intervention to try and help with the social conditions of our people in South Africa.
You, of course.
But for Zuma, it can't be. There won't be any violence for Zuma. He's going to go to trial, whether he likes it or not. And the judge will take a decision about that.
You, of course, have been convicted of hate speech in the past. There was, of course, the whole trial about your use of the Kill the Boer song, which you were responsible and your supporters were responsible for airing many times, and which in the end the courts convicted you of hate speech for using. You actually face new allegations of using hate speech toward white people in the last few months. Do you think that you are responsible for some of the rising tensions in your country today?
If I was responsible for rising tensions in my country today, what you see is picnic. It could have been worse than that if I was commanding it. I've engaged in democratic ways of trying to resolve problems in South Africa. And therefore, those who are scared of our ideas try and create an impression of very violent people. We are not. We are not responsible for any single violent activity that has happened in South Africa. You can't link us to anything. You can't link us to corruption. You can't link us to the abuse and violation of women in South Africa. But there is always this attempt to want to project us as being unreasonable people. But at the end of the day, when you break things down, you will never see the EFF like that.
Yeah, if you are so reasonable, why are you still using this language of race hate? You, as recently as February of this year, were cross-examined by AfriForum, an advocate working for them, the representative of one of the white communities in South Africa. You were alleged to have suggested that the slaughter of white people might happen in the future. And you said this: I can't guarantee that I won't do it. I'm not ruling out that possibility. Why do you continue to use this sort of language?
No, but you want to deny me a right to analyze society and give my own perception of what could be a possible outcome. When the unled revolution comes in South Africa, the first target is going to be white people, because they are the ones who've got the means. and the black elite, which has committed a class suicide, will also be pursued. But the biggest losers are going to be white people who should by now come to the party and say, guys, how do we find solution to the problems confronting our people? Because the unled revolution is led by the fact that people say and arrive at a conclusion that we have nothing to lose but our chains of poverty. That's why they will do what they're doing.
And it just strikes me it's very useful. It's very useful for you to continue to use this language of race confrontation, when in fact, if you're talking about inequality and poverty, you, Julius Malema, are arguably part of the problem. Your party gets massive donations from a white man who runs a tobacco company. You accuse others of being in the pocket of white capitalists. You do business with white capitalists yourself. And also, you make a point of declaring how many luxury holidays and nice cars you have had. You are one of the elite, are you not?
No, but you are lying. You see, your problem, you lie a lot and then ask a small question. You are a liar. You are a liar. Yeah, there's no EFF that gets a lot of money from a white man who is in cigarette. That man donated once when we're forming the EFF, and that's what is actually paining all of you. So it's a lie. We're not getting any money from any white person to run the EFF. I am an elite. When the masses come to attack all of us, I will also be part of the people who are attacked by these masses on the ground, because they will accuse us of having abandoned them in squalor and joined the palace politics. But we're trying everything in our power to say to them, we are fighting for you to get a better life. It's not an easy thing, and our people know the leaders who are trying to make sure that things are equal.
So what are you really offering the poor people of South Africa, those who are unemployed, those who are struggling for food? Your message doesn't seem to have changed. You want massive nationalization of resources, particularly white-owned resources. Well, right now we see that the nationalized energy company Eskom is completely failing the people of South Africa, so nationalization doesn't seem to work. You also argue for expropriation of white land with no compensation, and yet your party actually voted against it. So what are you really offering your people?
Well, I think your biggest worry is white people. I've never heard you speak about black people in a manner and the passion you are expressing yourself, as if there are only white people here and there are no black people who are actually at the receiving end of this crisis we are talking about.
No, on the contrary, Mr. Malema, I'm asking you why black South Africans should believe that your nationalization program would actually deliver for them.
White people, properties and all of that. Your obsession with them is exactly what distorts the message. Earlier on, you referred to AfriForum as an organization of white people. Call it for what it is. It's a racist organization. It's a racist white organization. So our proposal is very clear. Industrialization is going to create jobs. Nationalization of the mines is going to create jobs. The nationalization of the land, expropriated without compensation, and the state becoming the custodian of the land, will give a lot of our people access to the ownership of the land, and they can use the land to sustain themselves with the help of the state. And that's what
look at the state energy company, Mr. Malema. Look what that's delivering for the people of South Africa.
But let's look at also the private companies that are falling in South Africa. Why do you want to create an impression that the state companies are failing? The ANC is failing Eskom so that it can sell Eskom. You first make it look like it's not working, so that by the time you come to sell, everybody is so annoyed with Eskom and agrees to the nonsensical selling of state-owned enterprises. Recently we had aviation company closing down. It was not a state-owned. And then you take the state-owned aviation company, you say, no, let's privatize it because the state can't run it. As if when it's run by private sector, that it does a good job. It's not true.
Right, just one point of detail, Mr. Malema. It is no doubt across the world that Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine has led to a sharp spike in energy prices and in food prices, which badly affects the people of South Africa. I just wonder why, in that context, you and your party are so loudly pro-Putin. You have said, we are with Russia. Your colleague Floyd Shivambu has said that the Russians do not target civilians or civilian infrastructure. They operate with a degree of respect and honor. What's going on?
We are with Russia, and we are actually encouraging our government to work with Russia and to work with BRICS to try and find solutions to these problems we're confronted with. The Russians were there for us when it was not fashionable to do so, and we make no apology about our association with Russia.
A crisis point is facing South Africa. Do you believe that the monopoly on power of the ANC is about to come to an end? And if it is, are you prepared to work with the biggest opposition party, the Democratic Alliance, to bring the ANC's rule to an end?
Well, the EFF will bring the ANC's rule to an end, and our strategy as we are about to collapse this big elephant is not to consider who else to work with. We want to take down the ANC, and we're doing exactly that.
But you've got a decision to make, because you only get 10% of the vote in elections. The Democratic Alliance get twice that. So you've got to either build a coalition with other opposition elements, or you are never going to get anywhere near power.
I didn't know on the other side you are a fortune teller. I thought you were a journalist, because you can't tell what's going to happen in 2024. Only us who are involved in this work will tell you that the EFF is going to win 2024 elections and will not need the racist TA, if that's what you're concerned about.
Julius Malema, we're out of time, but I do thank you very